I feel trapped with my husband. I love him, but I'm not in love with him. I've told him this before, but he convinced me to stay, and it's just not working. We want different things. I don't know what to do. This is what one mum wrote on our Netmums Forum. So Dr. Tuesday, you're a psychologist. What would you tell our mum?
Firstly, this is such a hard situation, isn't it? And I think that so many mums will relate to that feeling of like stuckness, of like, I'm feeling this way, I can't see a clear way forward, I don't even know how to approach the way forward. And so much of my work isn't about telling people, right, this is the way forward, this is what you should do. It's like sitting with what's going on, really unpicking and unpacking what's happening and separating like the signal and the story that we're attaching to it. So for this mum, like the signal is very much like, I'm not in love. And then the story she's arriving at is, this isn't working, I need to leave. That kind of sounds like the story that's playing out.
I think how you described it, stuck, is perfect. You can feel so stuck in a relationship, especially when you've become a parent, 100%. And the unpicking and unpacking, that's gold dust. Tell me more about unpicking and unpacking.
I would really sit with this one and work out kind of what's going on. So this feeling of not being in love, can we separate that from the love? So she said, I think there, that she loves but isn't in love. So really sitting with what that difference means to that person. And when it comes to not being in love, very often this can be kind of a signal of some part of her or some need that's gone unmet or untended to for a really long time. So I would really sit with, what's the need, or what part of you feels like it hasn't been tended to for a really long time, or not tended to enough to generate those feelings of in-loveness with your husband.
That is such a good point. As soon as I read it about I'm not in love with him, I always immediately think about the Hollywood in love. Is he making me laugh every day? Does he make my cheeks ache with laughter? Like that kind of in love, when actually the day-to-day love is showing up in the small things, isn't it? It's not necessarily the big declarations. It is sitting with exactly what you said. What is it I'm missing? Is it that he's not put the bins out when I've not asked? Is that those kind of things?
Yeah, and I think like everything you've just said, I think we often have this really romantic idea in our heads about what relationships need to look like or what they should look like, don't we? And I think we see that highlighted even more on social media with the kind of insta-perfect couples and the perfectly working like team dynamics, but that's not how real life unfolds a lot of the time. And I think, sometimes the untended like parts of ourselves, maybe it is something like, I don't feel like we're having fun anymore, or I don't feel like we're communicating very well. We don't have those conversations. Like, what is the thing that's not being met? What's the need that's not being met here that's leading to those feelings of not being in love? And just really naming that and sitting with it before then taking it to your partner in the right way, in like a constructive kind of way.
Absolutely. That's kind of like, that's the next step, isn't it? How do I actually broach it? Because your advice there for me is so spot on. It's you've got to have your words figured out first for yourself before you go sharing them, so that you have explanations, you have reasons. I mean, the not having fun, every parent can relate to that on a day-to-day, right? Because there is a monotony of life that comes with being a family.
Oh my God, absolutely. I mean, I think we can all relate to that. This part of life feels a lot like treading water for so many of us, and fun doesn't even come into the equation. Conversation, an unbroken, uninterrupted conversation doesn't even come into it sometimes. It's such a relentless part of life. And I think when we are so depleted and when we are spinning so many plates, it can be really hard not to just enter these conversations from a place of defensiveness and like wanting to get your point across, because you just don't have the resources energy-wise to construct a articulate enough, not argument, but to start an articulate enough conversation about what's really going on for you. Sometimes it can just be like, you're doing this, or you just want to get straight to the point. Yeah, you just want to get straight to the point, don't you? And it can be really hard.
You've hit the nail on the head there, because parents are time poor and their brains are clogged with so many things. So to have to stop and come up with the mental clarity of working out what you want to say so it lands properly. So my husband has got into the habit of saying, I hope this lands how I intended, which I get. It feel corporate, but it makes me ready myself for just being like, okay, let's not jump to defensive. We're going to be listening. What's that thing on Instagram? We listen and we don't judge.
It is, but it's easier said than done, but I think definitely avoiding defensiveness wherever possible and really speaking from inside the experience. This is what's going on for me. I'm feeling confused. I'm feeling like this part of me isn't being seen, or this need isn't being met. It's creating confusion. I don't really know what to make of the feeling. I don't know what it means for us in our relationship, and I don't want to carry that anymore on my own. I'm bringing this to you to try and resolve, to try and figure out, but also knowing that one conversation alone might not resolve it. This might just be, a conversation that starts, that makes the next step a bit clearer, but doesn't offer like a silver bullet solution to whatever's going on, but speaking from inside the experience, not from a place of, you did this, you've made me feel this way. It's, this is what's happening for me. This is how it's making me feel. And I'm bringing this to you because I don't want to struggle with it on my own anymore. I'm bringing this forward to you and saying, this is me. This is what's going on for me. What can we do about this? How can we talk about this?
Yeah, that's really nice. I really like that 3-point bit you did where it's like, this is what's happening for me. This is like, that was a really nice breakdown. But what happens, for instance, like she's already told him once and he's wants to try again. It's still not there for her. What would her next step be if it's like, we've tried and it's still not there?
What's something that kind of stood out for me in the initial dilemma was, it's not working anymore. So I would dig into what's not working anymore. What's the thing that you agreed on to change or make different or make better? What is that you did differently to help things that isn't working? And really get very, very specific here. I wouldn't just leave it vague and be like, we'll try again, or let's try and make this better. I'd be like, okay, what needs to happen? What needs to change? What needs to be met for me? In what way do you need to see me a bit more, or whatever the case may be? What specifically needs to happen to make this feel better and to, help us progress and help us keep going? I'd just really dig in. Wherever there's an answer, I'd ask another question like, okay, what would that look like? What does that mean? How does that show up day to day? I'd really dig into it.
Yeah, that's really nice, because we do have a tendency to be quite surface level. I don't know about you. I was never taught how to communicate properly. I was taught through modeling how to storm out a room and how to be silent for like days. I was taught that side of it, but I was never taught how to actually communicate without being defensive, so this is all like a learning curve, I think, as a generation on how to communicate needs and how to be very specific about what you want to get from it. So I think that's a really nice way of wording it that will definitely kind of help any mum, especially where they're saying, I love him, but I'm not in love with him. It's helping them, like you say, unpack it a bit more and dig a bit deeper and lead with curiosity a bit.
Yeah, and I think this is new for all of us. There are so many things we weren't taught when we were growing up. How to name our feelings is a really big one for so many of us. How to actually sit with, okay, separating out the signal and the story. I'm not in love, but what does that actually mean? Why has that happened? What's the need that hasn't been met? What's the part of me that doesn't feel connected to this anymore? And then, like you say, being able to communicate that without just shutting down or silencing or defending or like running away. There are so many other versions of that series of events that we've all witnessed growing up that aren't the most constructive in, providing a way to move forward and actually progressing things. So I think just remembering as well, we're all learning and we're all new to this, and it might not offer a resolution. It might feel really messy. That's a big thing that I try and help people get comfortable with. This isn't like you see in the movies where everyone's got a neat script and they're all kind of following and saying their words and the conversation makes sense and it comes together. It's messy and it's a bit like there's twists and turns and it isn't always logical. But if you can just speak from inside the experience for you, let that be your guide. Let the sentence, I'm feeling, or when you did this, that made me feel this, not you're doing X, Y, and Z, the very defensive version that we've all witnessed growing up, and then just being gentle with yourself about how the conversation moves forward.